my name is Angela from the website naturallivingalchemy.ca. Welcome to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you the third part of our introduction to the Doctrine of Signatures, where we are going to be going over organ and disease signatures. If you didn't see the first two parts of this video series, that's okay. You don't have to worry because they actually don't go in any specific order other than just, I guess, the one that I chose to share with you today, or I guess over the course of the last few videos. So in our first video, we went over color and leaf shape. Video 2 went over environment and the sensory experience or approach. And like I said, today we're going to be going over some organ and disease signatures. There's so many that I just narrowed it down to just a couple in hopes of this making sense, and so that you could begin to go out into nature and begin to learn the language of nature. Okay, so before we get into the meat of this video, I just want to go over what the Doctrine of Signatures is, in case you didn't see those other videos where I did go over this there as well. But basically, the Doctrine of Signatures is a theory that each plant is stamped with a sign of its purpose. So that which looks like a disease or a body part in a plant cures or heals that disease or body part in a human. It's actually pretty neat if you want my opinion. And if you are interested in deepening your studies, same book I've referred in all of the other videos is this one. It is called The Language of Nature, A Guide to the Doctrine of Signatures from Julia Graves. Now, if you check out the description box below, I will have a copy of this book linked so you can grab your own. Like there's a lot of information in this book. There's beautiful colored photos, which I don't know about you, but I prefer when the colors are I prefer if the photos are color if possible, but that's just my preference. Anyway, that is enough rambling. Also in the description box below, before I forget to mention it, there is a full written blog article that just kind of goes over the information I'm going to be presenting to you today. So you might as well go check that out. Now, next week, we are going to be going over some plant communication techniques. So I'm going to be sharing with you different ways that you can start to get just deeper layers of messages from the plants. So we can get obviously messages from just looking at them. That's what these signatures are explaining. But what if you could actually connect with a plant and get a more personalized message? So hit that subscribe button, and I will be sharing those techniques next week. And just one last thing before we begin. I need to go over a little bit of a disclaimer because of the platform that I am bringing you this information on. I am not a doctor. None of what is on this channel is medical advice. It is simply for information and educational purposes only. Always be sure to consult your doctor or pharmacist before adding any protocols into your healing regimen. Now, on with our presentation for today. All right, so on your screen, you should be able to see our presentation, the Introduction to the Doctrine of Signatures, Part 3, Organ and Disease Signatures. So there's a couple different ways that we could approach organ signatures, and one of those ways is found in Ayurveda. So this is a theory that the plant tissues will heal its corresponding body part. So remember, though, that this is not necessarily a one-size-fits-all approach, but it's just another way that you can choose to start looking at the world around you. So I'm going to just break this down for you. So the body part or tissue plasma, okay, we can find treatments for that in the juice of the leaves. Blood, we could look to the resin and sap. Muscle, we could look to the hard woods that we find in nature. Fat, We could look to the gum and the hard saps found in trees. Skin, we could look to the bark of a tree, bark, skin, outer layer, right? The marrow and nerve tissue, we look to the leaf. And reproductive tissues, we look to the flowers and the fruit. I'm going to go over a couple different organ systems and parts of the body with the intention to just give you some pieces to put together in a way that you're calling to do so. So I want you to just keep in mind that signatures are actually open to personal interpretation, and they may require a bit of an exercise in your imagination. You will see what I mean shortly. So let's start at some head signatures. So the most commonly known head signature, as you can see on your screen, would be hard-shelled nuts or seeds that look like the skull. Our example here is the walnut. And I mean, even just look, there is the part around the seed. Okay, we're going to call it its shell. Kind of reminds you of what? What is your brain? Walnut looks like brain. It is surrounded by your skull. It really looks like, I find it really looks like what it says it's supposed to look like. Remembering, you're going to use your imagination a little bit. Okay. So, like I said, hard shelled nuts or seeds that look like the skull point to them being head signatures. Okay. Some other head signatures would be flowers that come to a head, making a large round bud points to head signatures. And the peony has been used for epilepsy treatments. Okay. Now, wood betony. So this plant has hairy roots. Okay. And it is also praised as a cure for headaches. Hairy roots. Where else is hair? Head, right? So we sometimes, like I said, it's kind of a stretch of the imagination at times, but is it really? Because some of these seem pretty obvious. Okay. Comment down below and let me know what your opinion is on these signatures. Okay. So next, a flower that looks like a skull will help with the skull. And our example here is skull cap. So just look at this picture for a moment, and what this looks like to me when I look at this kind of just looks like a helmet. I hope that you can see my cursor. But this looks like a person, kind of just like with their arms down and almost like a helmet or kind of like a cloak, right? And here's like the little head. But skull cap is an excellent nerve remedy for headaches. And if you even just look a little bit closer, nerves. If you look at these little fibers that are kind of all over, little nerve fibers is what they remind me of. That's another signature. So I'm going to go over some bone signatures now. I have a couple to share. So white chalky roots or structures are signatures for bones, okay, as we can see in bone set. Now, we also need to look at the name at times, bone set. It is exactly what this plant is used for. It is used to set a bone after a break. So we need to remember to look at the names of these plants, both ones that are like the scientific name, the common name that we would call them, and the names that these plants have been called in certain traditions and cultures across the world. So another example of a bone signature would be stiff hollow tubes. Those are signatures for long bones. Our long bones, what are they? They are stiff hollow tubes in the body. So plants that are spinal remedies actually look like the spine. They are generally elongated and they are rhythmically structured, as our example in mullein. Right, so our next bone signature would be rhythmic structures and symmetrical alignment are signatures for broken bones. All right, such as that found in horsetail. And you will see I tried to do this on purpose. I tried to use a couple of the same plants when possible, just to show you that they're not just one thing. Okay. So we will leave it at that. I don't want to just keep repeating some of the other information, but just keep in mind that the common message that we have been getting from the plants has been, we're not going to keep pigeonholing things. We're not just going to say this is good for that and that's it. Okay. You don't like to be told you're only good for one thing. Remember, they are reflections of us. They don't really like that either. Okay. Our next signature, our 5-lobed leaves, are signatures for the hand. So the leaves of a fig tree are used in ailments for joints of the hand. And you can see it kind of looks a little bit like a hand. So next, we're going to talk about a nerve signature. So long, fine thread-like structures are signatures for the nerves. Okay. And our example here is plantain. So our next nerve signature is found in the rose, and specifically not the flower of the rose. We need to think of the whole plant. We're talking specifically about the thorns. Okay. So the thorns are the signatures for the pain. Okay, so flowers that look like an eye are remedies for the eye. Now, our example here is eye bright. Now, I understand this flower doesn't necessarily, there we are, doesn't necessarily look like an eye, but look behind it over here. Before the flowers open, that sure resembles an eye to me. But I'm going to share a couple different things that this plant is used for. So eye bright is a remedy for conjunctivitis or pink eye. All right. And another thing, this yellow dot that you can find, right? That is also a specific signature for a jaundiced eye. Eye bright could be a remedy for that. So now we're going to talk about leaves that look like lungs. Okay. And our ginkgo plant looks like that. Like, to me, it's not only a set of lungs, it's like a set of lungs that are like open and like they're expanded. All right. So ginkgo has been a remedy in traditional Chinese medicine that helps moisten the lungs. Moisten, to me, that kind of thinks when something's getting moist, it is expanding, right? It just, the what I'm getting, it's a silly example, but that's okay. It's the example we're getting. Is it's almost reminding me of, did you ever have when you were younger? They were little dinosaurs and you put them in water and it grows, it expands when moisture hits it. That's kind of like the image that I'm getting with this ginkgo plant. So I'm going to go over some of this in our video next week when I talk about different plant communications and ways that the plant world is giving you messages. That's a way. Okay. This image of this plant sparked a memory in my mind, and it kind of just like connected some pieces, put some dots together. Okay. But anyway, we will talk more on that in that video. We are talking about disease and organ signatures today. So next I'd like to talk about the fennel plant and what could this possibly be a signature for? Well, like I pointed out in the eye bright example, we need to also look at the plant in its entirety, right? But also look at the shape of its parts. So if you were to take this fennel plant here and you were to cut it in half, that would reveal a dome-shaped structure. And that dome-shaped structure resembles very much a diaphragm. and fennel has been used as a respiratory remedy. So thyme is another of our respiratory remedies. And if you look at it, it kind of looks like it's an upside down thorax with the stems paralleling the appearance of ribs. Okay. Again, we're going to use our imagination. We're going to turn this picture upside down, and you can kind of see how, with their curve, it would somewhat represent the ribs. Okay. Like I said, thyme has been used as a respiratory remedy. Okay, so next we're going to talk about hollow stems again, because again, a couple different signatures here. They were a signature a moment ago for hollow bones, okay? But they're another signature. So the stems are a signature that the plant bridges several organ systems together. I would like you to put your logical hat on for a moment. So think about the stem. What is that doing in the plant? The stem is carrying with the nutrients, one thing it's doing, to the different parts of the plant, right? So that would point to that being able to do the same thing in the body, and how that plays out in action is plants with hollow stems clear the passageways in the body, okay? And we can find that in elder. Okay, yarrow. So we're going to look at the leaf of the yarrow plant. If you kind of see that the leaf is almost kind of reduced to just like little veins, right? It's not like a one full piece like the ginkgo leaf was. So what this is a signature for is this stops bleeding, and especially bleeding from the fine blood vessels. All right. And it does work. I think I used this as the same example in one of our previous videos. I'm going to use it again. I even have a recipe on this channel as for a basic healing salve in which I used yarrow, and I can attest from personal use that it did actually slow down bleeding of a cut. So if you want to check that out, you can check that video out in the description box. I will have that also linked if you are wanting to make some of your own medicines. Okay. Next, we have the cleavers plant. So our signature found in this plant is plants with duct-like structures are signatures for lymphatic remedies. Okay, and cleavers has been used as just that, kind of your little ducts over here. Okay. Next, ginger root, our signature. Remember, plants that resemble body parts are signatures for that body part. And I have a few different examples in this presentation of this exact thing. But our one here is ginger. So ginger root resembles a stomach, okay? And it has been used as a remedy for upset stomach. Just think of when you have an upset tummy, what do? You grab a glass of ginger ale to feel better, okay? That is because the ginger helps with the stomach. All right, so next, yellow flowers are signatures for the liver and the gallbladder. And we can see that in dandelion is an excellent example. And again, I went over more of the different color signatures in part 1 of the presentation, but I just wanted to mention this one again because there are a lot of yellow plants. Okay, there's a lot of plants of many colors, but I've noticed a lot of yellow plants. Now, that may be because I am looking for more liver and gallbladder support, as I have some things in my body going on that I'm trying to heal through plants. And dandelion has been a wonderful ally. So next, let's talk about funnel-shaped leaves. Those are a signature for kidney remedies. Now, in the pitcher plant here, and I understand I said leaf, and this is actually part of the flower, but it's just the funnel-shaped parts of plants, I guess, would be the more specific way I could have worded it, but we're not changing it now. So the pitcher plant has been used as a kidney remedy. and the water actually gets caught in the parts of the plant. Okay, so just think about that for a moment on how this could actually be a reflection of one of your body parts. So those are just a few of the different organs, signatures that we have available to us. And I hope that I did do a good job of sharing a variety of the different ways that these signatures show up. So I'm just going to briefly now go over just a few disease signatures, because for every disease or illness, there is a remedy found in nature. And we are sick individuals. There are a lot of different diseases, different symptoms that we could come across that we could start to just look in nature and find the remedies for, as opposed to just going to the doctor and getting another prescription. But I digress. So we're going to talk about some disease signatures. So a classic injury signature would be when a plant bleeds, such as that found in St. John's wort. This sap is a signature for hemorrhage or blood disorders. So next, prolapse remedies are found in plants that have heavy drooping flowers, such as that found in Pterygium. So just think, prolapse. An organ just isn't sitting where it's supposed to be in the body. Okay, the example that I'm coming up with would be in a female, a uterine prolapse, where the uterus is no longer where it's supposed to be and is essentially starting to fall out of the body. So when we encounter something like that, you could look to a plant that just has like a heavy drooping flower to it or part of it. It doesn't necessarily have to we're not going to pigeonhole it and say it has to be the flower, but just any part of the plant that it's drooping, it's too heavy. Okay, we could look to those for signatures to help with those organs. So remember, as I said, plants that look like the body part of the human are signatures for that body part. Now, this example is a little bit silly, and that gets to be okay, because if we can't be silly sometimes, what's the point? So our Himalayan balsam, okay, and this is specifically the seed pods of this plant. These pods, if you ask me, resemble a certain part of a male anatomy, okay? So we're going to keep that. But this plant, as soon as you touch these seed pods, these seeds begin to eject at the slightest touch. What is that, my friends? That is a signature for premature ejaculation. Okay. Remember when I said sometimes they're obvious, but not. Okay. Sometimes we need to put the pieces together with our imagination. But here is a signature that did take a little bit to get to, but how, now that you see it, how can you not see it? Okay, but anyway, we'll continue. I just have a couple more to go through. So in here, the plants that look like the part of the body in the human, what does this look like? The flowers of the lily of the valley kind of look like parts of your lungs, like that have been expanded and they've been inflamed. Okay. Lily of the Valley is a wonderful asthma treatment because it looks like inflamed alveoli, right? So if it is looking like parts of the lungs that are inflamed that cause the asthmatic issues, right? Here's a picture of it in nature. So plants that look like crippled hands are signatures for arthritis and rheumatism. I see I spelled that wrong, but that's okay. We're just going to push through and not start this all over. So anyway, back to what I was trying to say. Have you ever seen somebody that has like a rheumatoid arthritis in their hand, and their hand kind of just looks all like crippled, much like the resemblance of this devil's claw. Okay. Devil's claw is a signature for a treatment of arthritis. So, our final signature that I would like to talk about would be found in parasitic plants. That is a signature for cancer remedies. So, mistletoe is actually considered a parasitic plant. And what that means is those are plants that obtain all or part of its nutrition from another plant without contributing to the benefit of the host. Think about this logically for a moment. Is that not how cancer acts in the body? So, how the plants grow is a signature. Okay, that concludes our presentation on the introduction to the Doctrine of Signatures. Now, I may come back at a later time down the road and just add more parts to this, but for now, it feels like a pretty good foundation from which to build off of. So, join me next week where I'm going to be sharing some plant communication techniques with you. Like I said, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss anything coming out in the future. Please, if you wouldn't mind, don't forget to hit that like button, share this video with anybody who you think might benefit or enjoy learning about the language of nature. And I want you to just comment down below and let me know what are some other takeaways that you got. What are some other signatures that you noticed in these plants that I hadn't gotten to yet? So I will leave it at that. I would like you to thank you for spending this time with me today. And until next time, may you find peace wherever you are.